believe that I am an expert. Wow. Wow.
Not the appropriate answer to.
Hello there and warm welcome to my channel. In case this is your first time here, this is my new video series where I talk about different subjects that somehow interest me or revolves around my life. While I do so, there is going to be a video on the background where I'm doing some everyday tasks or sometimes not so usual tasks. Like for example, I definitely do not deep clean my oven often enough. But as you can see, today we are deep cleaning my oven. While doing so, I'll be talking about burnout and exhaustion and my story on how easily one can fall to suffer from without even noticing. Burnout by definition is a state of complete mental, physical and emotional exhaustion. And usually a burned out person feels extremely tired in a way that no matter how much you sleep, you still feel tired. And one might also have physical symptoms like stomachache, headache, or in general they might be getting sick easier. Burnout can also make one lose their appetite in total, or they might be unable to sleep at all. Some people are more prone to get burned out, but it can definitely happen to anyone. The most important thing is to recognize the symptoms early on and seek help and do all the necessary steps to prevent the situation from getting worse. I do have to admit this was definitely a subject that I was really struggling to narrow down my view on. I have so much to say, I have so many stories to tell, but honestly, I don't want to bore you with it. I don't want to bore you with an incredibly lengthy videos. So I did make a script and notes for this video multiple times, and I do have all my thoughts still written down in case I would like to revisit the subject in the future. But today I specifically wanted to talk about exhaustion and burnout, which is caused by studying. I've always kind of been an overachiever, but to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what has made me that way. Or, I don't know, maybe it's just something that's built on me, who knows? But in any case, it is something that I have struggled and battled with as long as I can remember. I always give my everything, no matter how little or insignificant the situation is. I have sought for acceptance and praises just to have that little golden star on my notebook. In most of the cases, yet still, even if a teacher has told me that I've done a good job, I still find a lot of faults on my own work, and I'm never completely happy with the result. And if I happen to get a lot of feedback which would be indicating that I could have done something better, it kind of makes me feel filthy, in the lack of a better word. It feels like I've really failed on what I have been doing. I like to call it my Lisa Simpson syndrome. Why I wanted to narrow down to studying is because because of my most recent experience with burnout and exhaustion. It's actually so recent that while I'm recording this, I have just barely recovered from this mini burnout. For the last year, I've been studying really hard. I've been so focused on graduating fast and with exceptional grades that nothing else really mattered for me. It was the perfect way to escape all the issues that I had on my personal life. If I dived into studying, I didn't have time to worry about anything else. Perfect, right? I got so many courses done. I took a part of pretty much all the optional courses and activities the school offered. I always took the extra assignments and did the extra mile to get straight A's. I did this pretty much for a full year until it started to show on me. I'd say that last November was the first month when there were very clear signs that I was a bit all over the place. But during that time, I blamed it on having too much work at the same time. So in my mind, the correct solution was to cut down work to have more time to study. I don't think I mentioned that while I was doing this year of studying, I also worked full-time. So last November, I made the calculations that if I'd be able to take a proper study leave for a few months, so I would be able to wrap up some courses and really get things done. I was off from work for 2 months studying full-time, and depending on the day, I studied somewhere between 6 to 10 hours a day. So in January, by the end of January, I got back to work. But I didn't cut down from the studying because in my mind, it had kind of like twisted into that I'm not progressing fast enough. And if I had the energy to do a lot of both, that would be even better. You're probably thinking at this point that wait a minute. How is it that you are studying and working full-time? This math ain't mathing. Well, that's where I made a mistake that I only realized very recently. And I'll give you all the figures in a while. So, since I work remotely and I work with my own company, I'm able to toggle between tasks the way that I want and the way that I feel on that day. So sometimes I only work, sometimes I only study, sometimes I do both during the day. Sometimes I reward myself with some nice subject like biology or math if I have managed to do something that I didn't enjoy as much. And I am doing so well at school, but all of a sudden these dark, sad and upsetting thoughts started to fill my head, and I started to feel like an imposter. What if I'm not good enough? What if I cannot get to the school I desire? What will I do if I cannot do the work in the future that I want? What's even the point of studying now if there's a chance I'm not smart enough? These thoughts kept me awake during the nights, and I started to feel very embarrassed of telling so many people that what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I kept spiraling on I'm a fool of even thinking that I would ever be able to work on the field that I want. Who was I kidding? So in my mind, this turned into a logical decision that I should quit school. And I ended up contacting my study advisor to have a call with her. And I literally started crying almost immediately when the call started. I told her how I felt, that I want to quit. She was a little bit puzzled because my grades are so good and I keep progressing on my studies so well. And then she asked me, well, how do you fill out your days? What's a typical day for you? So I explained. I wake up at around 6 a.m., sometimes a little bit earlier. I get up, I make myself breakfast, and I eat while I log in, read my emails. Then I usually work until lunchtime. I eat lunch around 1 p.m., taking a proper break, somewhere between 20 minutes to 60 minutes. Then I continue with studies until at least 5 p.m., usually 6 p.m. And if I happen to have extra energy, I continue until 8 p.m. She was speechless. She then more like stated than asked, so you pretty much work and study at least 10 hours a day. And all I could do was nod my head. That was probably the first time for me as well when I even thought about the situation as a whole. I had been so in my own bubble that I hadn't thought how much I was training myself. And actually, even now when I'm saying this out loud, I am having a little bit of hard time thinking that, is that even a lot? I'm sure there are people, multiple people that does much more than me, and I feel like I'm making a big deal out of something that is nothing. And that's how badly my view has twisted. Well, my study advisor then concluded this by saying like, no wonder you're exhausted. And I think you're basically just tired. So instead of quitting, I think it might be advisable to have a proper break and then come back to the studies with fresh eyes. So that's what I did. I had a proper 2 weeks break, and actually while I'm recording this, it's the end of those 2 weeks. So for the last 2 weeks, I have not been working, I have not been studying, and honestly, it has definitely done wonders for me. All the signs of my exhaustion was there. But there were a few things that really started to wake me up to the situation. Like now that I'm thinking it afterwards. A lot of my close ones started to softly hint out that grades are not everything, that I should also start to enjoy life. My spouse was more and more often stating, I didn't want to bother you because I figured that you're probably studying. And then finally my study advisor mentioning about the length of my days. And now, as a final nail to the coffin, during my off time, I got a grade for one of the courses that I finished before my break. And this is a subject that I've usually gotten a grade 10, and this time I got an 8. For those who doesn't know, in a Finnish school system, 10 is the best possible grade that you can have and 4 would be failed. So 8 is still a very good number, but I was in utter shock when I saw the email, and even more when I checked what was that made it drop so badly. On the assignments that I had returned, all the assignments up until halfway of the course was all either 9 or 10. And then there's a drop where one of the assignment was actually as low as 6. And I'm reading through all these assignments and I can see that on my answers there are so many mistakes that I would normally never do. It was so visible that I had rushed through all the last assignments just in order to get the course done and dusted, which is not like me at all. This truly was a wake-up call in so many ways. First of all, as I mentioned, I have a very twisted view of what is a good grade and what's not. I don't always have to get the best possible grade as long as I'm actually understood and learn the key factors from the course. And as long as I understand what are the possible downfalls and what are the things that I might need to revisit. Not everyone is perfect at everything. I won't learn anything in a long run if I constantly push myself to the limit. Balance between work, school, and free time is so important. I've spoken about this to my spouse too, and he keeps telling me that no one else is expecting me to do all the things other than me. And no one is going to look down on me or think me as a failure if I graduate a little bit later. Let it be 6 months, a year, or even longer. And I'm finally starting to see that he is right. I am my worst enemy, and I do understand that I need to work on that. I also got a good advice recently to add the free time as well to my calendar. Just to make like a mental note about it that this is something that you should be doing today. And I actually think that's something that I will start doing. Because if I've scheduled it, then my mind will be much more happier as well to let me relax too. And considering how much I like to schedule everything by hour, as in, now I need to do this for 2 hours. Today I have to study math for 2 hours, biology for 1 hour. Scheduling free time on my calendar like that only makes sense, right? For the end of this video, I just want to say to each and everyone out there who is currently studying or working on something that takes a lot of extra effort. Remember to take care of your mental health and make sure that you wind down as well. Getting something done faster is not worth of losing yourself in the process. Get to the goal, but do it on your own terms and listen to your body when it's telling you that you're doing too much. Don't start rushing on things. just because you think that someone else might be expecting that from you. And on the long run, it's definitely better to take a day off every now and then, or even a half day if you feel like you need to recharge your batteries, rather than waking up one day realizing that you're unable to do any of your normal tasks for months and you only can barely keep yourself alive. By the way, even though this video is short and only for around 20 minutes, this cleaning took me basically almost a day. Almost like a working day. That was a lot of work. So my advice, clean your oven a little bit more often than I do. I can't remember when was the last time that I did such a throughout cleaning. So maybe every now and then, like every few months would be advisable. If you have any good tips on how to maintain a healthy balance between all the aspects in your life, I'd be happy to hear it down in the comments. And thank you so much for watching and listening the whole video, and I hope to see you soon on my next video.